Thank you, John Thomas, for that beautiful entry into our service today. Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Meetinghouse of Provincetown, where we affirm the inherent dignity and worth of every person, and where we support each other in our spiritual search for truth and meaning. My name's Ellen Anthony. I serve on the worship committee, and I'm honored to be your worship host this morning. Welcome to those in the room, and welcome to those joining us online this morning via live stream. This morning, we welcome to our pulpit Kate Wallace Rogers. Kate is a poet and a tutor here in Provincetown. She's been attending UU Meetinghouse of Provincetown for over 15 years. In the past, Kate has served on our worship committee, and she's currently a member of Racial Justice Provincetown. Thank you so much for sharing your message with us this morning, Kate. Before we go on with our service, I have just a few announcements to share. There's still time to sign up for our Circle Supper on Saturday, February 24th. The idea of the Circle Supper is that small potluck dinners will be held on the same night in different people's homes as a way to connect and break bread together. Please let our office administrator, Kenneth, know if you'd like to host one or attend one of these dinners. Or you can email Lisa Bergeron, whose contact information is in the UUMH email that was sent out. There are some great Winter Spirituality Series offerings coming up in February and March. Please look at our website for those offerings. All of the events are listed under the tab called News. We've also sent out information to the UUMH folk email list. The next event in this series is a labyrinth walk on Sunday, February 18th at 2 p.m. Let Reverend Kate know if you'd like to attend, and she will share the secret location. There will be a fire, hot chocolate, and a beautiful labyrinth nestled in the woods of Truro. We also hope you'll join us for Singspiration, an interfaith music event happening here on February 25th. We're excited to teach our hymn, Spirit of Life, to other congregations that come, and we will learn their favorite hymns from them. All are invited to our Tuesday evening coffee hour every Tuesday at 5. This is a lovely hour of midweek connection where we talk about the question of the week and share in a ritual of joys and sorrows. The link is sent out to our email list each week and remains the same. Finally, if you're here in person today, we hope that you'll stick around for a while after the service for coffee and conversation downstairs in Acker Bosworth Hall. And now let's take a moment to affirm our covenant, the covenant of our community. You'll find this on the little purple laminated cards in your pews, or you can just listen line by line and repeat after me. Love is the spirit of this meeting house. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now, as we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you watching online to light a candle wherever you are. In this way, we can feel connected even while we are apart, and I invite Keith to light our chalice here in the sanctuary. As I read words by Brother David Stendhal Rost. Brother David Stendhal Rost is a 96-year-old Benedictine monk who studies Buddhism and has written several books on interfaith healing and compassion. In Noble Heart, he writes, "We need to learn how to be decent human beings. That's the basis for what we call religion. A decent human society brings about spirituality. It brings about blessings and what could be called the gift of God. The quest of the human heart for meaning is the heartbeat of every religion." The quest of the human heart for meaning is the heartbeat of every religion. And now I invite you to join me in singing our opening hymn, 1021, in the teal hymnal. The hymn is "Lean on Me." Lean on me. Please rise as you are able.
We all have pain, we all have
you all for that rousing, leaning song. Thank you, John Thomas. So, before I invite you to a moment of prayer and meditation, I just want to thank you all for being here. This is always an incredible honor to stand here in Reverend Kate's shoes. That's a slightly more Reverend Kate. Thank you for bringing your open hearts to listen today. It's not always easy to imagine offering something that for February, the shortest month in the year, which is also Black History Month, and Valentine's Day, bringing together those ideas of all the love that I need to express from my heart, and hope that you find space in your hearts to listen. And with a breath of kindness, blow what doesn't suit you away. I invite you now into a time of meditation and prayer. During this time, or at any time during the service, you are welcome to light a silent candle at the table to the right of the pulpit, where there is a journal to record your thoughts and prayers. After our prayer, we will sing together Spirit of Life, hymn 123, which is also printed on the purple laminated cards in your pews. We'll sing first in English and then in Spanish. This morning's prayer is by Reverend Kate Wilkinson. In this time of prayer, may we bring into our circle of concern all those who, through our prayerful intentions, may be held by the inexplicable web of connection that links us together. May our love and prayers not be limited to ourselves or those near us, but extend to all our neighbors, both those we know and those we never will. We lift up our hearts and prayers to members of this community, our loved ones and families. May our hearts be gladdened by the joys of this sacred community, and may we have the strength and compassion to hold their sorrows as well. We lift up our hearts and prayers to all those who are going without today, without food or shelter, without security or love. May those who are without not be without hope. We lift up our hearts and prayers to all those who are affected by war, all those who suffer from acts of violence and who are afraid. We pray that justice and healing make their way into these lives. May our prayers not be limited to words, but express themselves in action. And may we continue to feel the tug of the web as we realize and hold tight our connections to one another. We now invite Myra Coy to join us here to read a poem called America by Claude McKay. The poem Myra will read was written by an openly bisexual Jamaican man who was popular in the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s. It speaks to the dichotomy experienced by many people of color who have tried to reconcile their faith and love for America with the daily injustices they face.
America by Claude McKay. Although she feeds me bread of bitterness and sinks into my throat her tiger's tooth, stealing my breath of life, I will confess, I love this cultured hell that tests my youth. Her vigor flows like tides into my blood, giving me strength erect against her hate. Her bigness sweeps my being like a flood. Yet, as a rebel fronts a king in state, I stand within her walls with not a shred of terror, malice, not a word of jeer. Darkly I gaze into the days ahead and see her might and granite wanders there. Beneath the touch of time's unerring hand, like priceless treasures sinking in the sand. Thank you.
I invite you now to join me in our next hymn, 1042, Rivers of Babylon. That's 1042 in the teal hymnal. Rivers of Babylon, please rise as you are able.
The rivers of Babylon, where we sat
Creativity is our name. Now is the time in our service where we take a collection for the ongoing support of this meeting house and our shared ministry. As we enjoy a musical reflection by our choir, we welcome your donations in the sanctuary and online through PayPal or Venmo. You can find that information on the website uumh.org, or there are QR code cards in the pews as well. We invite 3 members of the congregation to collect the collection. Here they come.
Sing with us. We're going to sing a song out of this hymnal, 1024. 1024. You will see some very curious things. You may think that it is only 1 page long, but au contraire, if you look at the bottom of the first page, 1024, you'll notice that there are really 4 verses. You say, do first, sing is the second time, dance is the third time, laugh, and then shout. I would also like to have you all, in all seriousness, hold our accompanist, Brenda Silva, in your hearts while she's going through some very difficult family things. We miss her tremendously. And we thank John Thomas for being with us in her absence. Now, we're going to do what we need to do. We're going to sing the first verse, just so you get the flavor. And then I'll ask you to join us on the first verse. And then what happens after that, you're on your own. We're going to do the first verse twice. Do and do. It goes like this. Are you ready? You gotta loosen up. You gotta feel the second beat and the fourth beat. Snapping is better. Clapping will throw us off.
When the Spirit says sing. when the Spirit says dance. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance. Oh Lord, you gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 Spirit. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you gotta laugh. Oh Lord, you gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. 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 You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you gotta shout. You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. 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 You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 Spirit says
Thank you, choir. Woo! That was something else. Thank you, John Thomas. So, Spirit says do. Good morning, UU family. In preparing for today, I asked myself what I could say that might leave you all inspired and full of love for humankind, the way I feel after listening to Rev Kate each Sunday. Well, that's a tall order. I think one of the aspects of Reverend Kate's sermons that so deeply impresses me is that she's always taking risks, modeling the behavior of challenging herself and exposing her flaws or doubts or discomfort in order to challenge us to face the world head on, to speak out against injustice and speak up for what we believe in and offer help and strength for those who our hearts can see need help. She offers us the chance to educate ourselves, to contribute bravely with authenticity. In the words of Arthur Ashe, to start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. So simple. In honor of Black History Month and the coming of Valentine's Day, I have chosen the theme, Love is the Spirit, for this sermon today. When we gather at this meeting house, we declare, love is the spirit of this meeting house. That is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. To me, this means that we strive to open our hearts to love, help, and understand our community inside and outside these walls. I have deep love and gratitude for this UU fellowship, which has supported me through some very difficult times and continues to do so. It has inspired me to learn about and stand up for racial and social justice at Standing Rock, South Dakota, in Washington, D.C., and here on the Cape. Did any of you see the article in the Provincetown Independent newspaper a few weeks ago about the chapel on the pond? It's a small historic church in Truro that is home to a mostly Jamaican congregation led by Pastor David Brown, whom some of you may know from his other jobs at the Masthead, Land's End Marine, or P-Town or Pride Taxi. Brown has been the pastor of the chapel for 6 years and has grown the congregation from a handful to 50 members, with 50 to 100 attending any given service. Robert and Catherine Vallot, a white evangelical couple who own the church property, have decided to put it on the market without offering Pastor Brown a chance to discuss options or come up with a plan to buy it. It's hard to imagine why they would shut the door in his face so quickly, though it might take a miracle, as the price tag the Vallots are suggesting is between $600,000 and $1 million for this less than a quarter acre. Pastor Brown is scrambling to find a new home for his parishioners and Emmanuel Faith Ministry, which he has recently formed, and they were given their 501c3 nonprofit status. The Vallots, who live on a 68-foot yacht from which they run their boathouse ministries, have a house in Vail now, but used to have a house in Truro and always had a positive relationship with Pastor Brown. The UU and other Outer Cape interfaith members and local schools have offered the congregation interim space. I've been getting to know Pastor Brown over several years since he is active in the Racial Justice Provincetown group, though I met him first at the Masthead, where he's worked over 20 years across the street from Stanley Kunitz's house, where I used to garden and live off-season. He came to work in Provincetown with the second batch of Jamaican recruits on H-2B visas in 1990. Brown realized that he was ill-informed about life in the land of opportunity, as he had learned of it in the media. But like so many others, he put up with miserable housing he wishes he could forget, worked long hours at several jobs, and sent money home for the care of his children who grew up with relatives. He kept his head down, knowing he was still better off economically here than at home in Jamaica. He prayed that his efforts could pay off in a better life, education, and opportunities for his children. After years working seasonally, Brown was advised to apply for his green card by an honest boss who told him that though his condition might improve, he shouldn't disillusion himself. No matter how much integrity he had, Brown's status would always be lesser. He would not be treated or paid as well as his white counterparts. Brown told me that this made him more aware of his sort of shadow self. He had had this feeling of being two men. One, the lowly person he was perceived to be in America, and the other, the pastor who loved America with integrity, who was ordained in Jamaica and always maintained his positivity in order to uplift himself, his family, and his community. He had to figure out the expectations and rules in America each step of the way without guidance, while he researched constantly and caught on little by little. I'm struck by how bravely he overlooks the thousands of dollars he lost being swindled by the white lawyer who promised to help him get a green card. Instead, after the deadlines for his application had passed and his approved application was sitting on the lawyer's desk, the lawyer offered to help him get a divorce and marry an American. This is a common practice, and this immigration lawyer just happened to also be a divorce lawyer. This was not an option for Brown because he had promised Carlene, his wife and mother of their 4 children, who sings in the church and had suffered so many hardships as well, that only death could part them. His other options were to go back to Jamaica or wait until their daughter was old enough to sponsor them. So they waited almost 12 years. Their story is similar to several others I have heard in the Jamaican community. Pastor Brown says that Reverend Kate and Pastor Brenda encouraged him and gave him counsel and were always willing to help and explain. Pastor Brown feels so fortunate to have met so many unconditionally loving people on Cape Cod whom he considers family. In researching for this sermon, I learned that on this date, February 4th, 1875, James T. Rapier, a black Alabama congressman, made his half-free, half-slave speech in the House of Representatives. Rapier says, "The law recognizes my right upon this floor as a lawmaker, but there is no law to secure me any accommodations whatever while traveling here to discharge my duties as a representative of a large and wealthy constituency. Here I am a peer of the proudest, but on a steamboat or car I am not equal to the most degraded. And I shall feel ashamed for my country if there be any foreigners present here who have been lured to our shores by the popular but untruthful declaration that this land is the asylum of the oppressed. To hear a member of the highest legislative body in the world declare that notwithstanding his political position, he has no civil rights that another class is bound to respect. Here a foreigner can learn that it is possible for a man to be half free and half slave. Here he will see a man legislating for free people while his own chains of slavery hang about him and are far more galling than any the foreigner left behind him. Here he will see that position is no mantle of protection in our land of the free and home of the brave, for I am subjected to far more outrages and indignities than any criminal in the country, provided he be white. Instead of my position shielding me for insult, it too often invites it. It seems encouraging that Rapier's words made a difference, and the civil rights bill he supported became the Civil Rights Act of 1875. Just gonna get some water. However, over 30 years later, similar struggles continued. W.E.B. Du Bois was an African-American activist who, like Claude McKay, the Jamaican poet we heard just before from Myra, was part of the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s. In 1907, in his book, The Souls of Black Folk, Du Bois wrote, "It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, this sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, of measuring one's soul by the tape of a world that looks on in amused contempt and pity. One ever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. He longs to merge his double self into a better and truer self. He simply wishes to make it possible to be both a Negro and an American without being cursed and spit upon by his fellows, without having the doors of opportunity closed roughly in his face." Du Bois may have had a PhD from Harvard, but still he could not reconcile the inequities he faced. Take a breath. Reverend Kate suggested I learn about this story from the UU history. About 100 years ago, a man named Ethelred Brown, maybe that's the comic relief I'm looking for because it goes on. He happens to have the same name as Pastor Brown, but he's got Ethelred to walk around with. About 100 years ago, a man named Ethelred Brown from Jamaica became the first black man to be ordained as a minister in the Unitarian Church. Who knew? Though he was raised in an Episcopal church, as a 13-year-old, he realized that he did not believe in the creed he had to repeat back to the Reverend. He found a pamphlet about Unitarianism at his uncle's house and decided to practice this faith that emphasized freedom of religious expression. It wasn't easy to emigrate and leave his family behind to attend seminary in New York, but Brown stood up for the ideas he loved and wanted to share. Even when the Unitarian Seminary insisted that no white congregation would have him and no black congregation even existed, he resolved to build a congregation of black people. Reverend Brown created and served the Harlem Unitarian Church for 36 years. He got little support from the white church establishment, and his fellowship was rescinded in 1929 through 1935 because he was thought to be too radical. The AUA only gave him his pulpit back after he threatened a lawsuit. Looking back, Brown wrote, "We alone of all churches have, in the truest sense, a free pulpit in a free church. I am a Unitarian minister because I believe Unitarian churches are dedicated to the progressive transformation and enrichment of individual and social life through religion in accordance with advancing knowledge and the growing vision of mankind." To many Unitarian Universalists, this part of our history is disgraceful. When we look back, we may wonder, how might we do better if we had another chance? In a quest for restitution or reconciliation, are there any opportunities we might seize? Other important moments in history that I found for February 4th, I'll share because it's just astounding. It happens to be Rosa Parks' birthday, so there's something positive. I also learned that on February 4th, 1971, there was a race riot about delays in school desegregation in Wilmington, North Carolina, that led to the imprisonment of 9 blacks and 1 white activist. The Wilmington 10 were incarcerated for almost 9 years before they were eventually released because of prosecutorial misconduct and denial of due process. 4 of them had already died. On this date, in 1794, slavery was abolished in France. I thought how advanced and egalitarian of them, until I read that only 8 years later, Napoleon reestablished slavery, creating a code noir which prohibited people of color going into French colonies and denied them the right to intermarry with whites. Slavery wasn't actually abolished in France until 1848. The history that we are learning about today may guide us to work to reconcile in our hearts and actions what happened long ago and far away. But as we know, there is a surge of racism these days throughout the United States, and much closer to home. On Martin Luther King Day a few weeks ago, the play reading of Neighbors at the Wellfleet Preservation Hall depicted dozens of ways that our neighbors on Cape Cod, people of color, experience racism in their daily lives. Since the first H-2B visa-carrying Jamaicans arrived over 30 years ago, many have become tax-paying members of our community and have lived here longer than the mere 10 years I have. So many of us, people of color or white, gay or straight, born on the Cape or Washer Shores, started by working here seasonally and then over time found a way to make the beautiful Outer Cape our year-round home. When we opened our doors here at the UUMH to rent space to Jamaican congregations in the past, we have received complaints from parishioners who fear that their teachings are closed-minded, not in keeping with UU traditions. I have also recently heard from gay white people the blanket statement that they want nothing to do with Jamaicans because Jamaicans are homophobic. I know many of the white people in town may not have grown up with lots of people of color, and their house of worship may have been a place where it felt quiet and subdued, and certainly not a place to jump and dance and yell out passionately for the love of God. I hear lots of tales of discomfort and fear, but my understanding is that when two communities get to know one another, prejudices fall away. Pastor Brown, who has blessed the rainbow crowd right out here on the lawn and the drag show at Juneteenth, believes that love is love. He preaches about God's love and believes that he should not judge lest he be judged himself. He has many close gay and lesbian friends he has met in town over the years, though he assured me he grew up among people who were afraid and close-minded about gay culture, though they may never have met a gay person. I'm quite sure my grandmother was not open-minded about gays or blacks. She was taught and would have led me to believe that dark skin determined that these people were lesser beings without rights, workhorses to serve whites, to be taken advantage of, or even to be looked down upon. Who am I to say that another community's historical prejudice is any worse than mine? When I first came to Provincetown, I was told by my girlfriend, a nice woman, who lived here a while, that Jamaicans don't like lesbians. Just like that, a statement of fact in her mind. I could understand how that might be her perception, but I knew I could make up my own mind from my own experience. Even so, she was pretty friendly with some Jamaicans she had worked at at different jobs. Had she been looked at sideways, or misunderstood, or not given a chance, ignored, judged, or slighted on some occasions, much like the people of color who told their stories in Neighbors much like the people of color who told their stories in the play Neighbors about the encounters with racism they endure on a daily basis. How do we change these patterns? At times in our history, even in the not-so-distant past, we have had times with very few parishioners here in the UUMH. But once settled in this fabulous, historic, trompe-l'oeil meeting house, we didn't lose the building. Instead, we've had a chance to welcome a great minister who built us back up so that we could be inspired to be our best selves in congregation and follow our covenant within and beyond our doors. Our meeting house is part of the heart and soul of this community. The chapel on the pond is part of the heart and soul of the Jamaican community, and they need a home in which to be inspired by a positive, compassionate leader who has worked hard to grow a congregation that supports their larger community. He has congregants who come from as far as Hyannis and Eastham. Love thy neighbor as thyself is a mantra. Love thy neighbor as thyself is a mantra in some form in religions all around the world. Love is the spirit, is the way we say it here at the UU. I am blessed to truly believe in pronoia, which, as Reverend Kate has explained on occasion, is a belief that the universe is designed to shower us with blessings. I believe that the parishioners of the chapel on the pond believe that the universe is designed to shower us with blessings, though they may call what I call universe God. And they may pray in some way that looks different from the way my prayers look. Are the myriad of beliefs that I espouse to, that I draw from so many religions, better than anyone else's? No. Do I believe Muslims are better than Jews? Are Jews better than pagan? Pagan better than Confucian, Shinto, Hindu, or Christians? Are Christians the best in the world? No, I don't believe that. We don't necessarily have to do something in honor of Black History Month, but maybe just because it's the next right thing we believe in doing. Could we step up and do something meaningful for people of color in our community? Black Lives Matter. They have supported us, and now we have a chance to support them. It's the right thing to do. The whole Outer Cape economy depends on Jamaicans in the workforce. Would it be so outlandish that they count on us for a change? Do you remember how housing was taken from Jamaican employees after Nappy's death? People felt powerless to help those families who were left unhoused. Such a shame. But I know I didn't do anything to help. When will our community stand together to make right? All acts of support count as restitution, not just the centuries of damage from slavery. I'll start that sentence again. All acts of support count as restitution, not just for the centuries of damage from slavery and the repercussions that make a man feel the double conscious shadow of half free, half slave, but also for the inequality that is still happening daily in this community. I am not saying everyone must support the chapel on the pond. There are so many ways to show up for racial justice. Though I would love help creating a miracle, an act of love and kindness and faith towards a spiritual community in need, which is gaining momentum as we speak. But just please, do something real, more than a token or gesture, but from your deep belief that love is the Spirit. Thank you.
It has become our practice to pose a question based on the theme of the service each week. It can be a topic of sharing at coffee hour or with friends during the week. If you'd like to delve deeper into this question, we invite you to join us on Zoom on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Please let the office know if you need that link. The question for this week is, what have you been inspired to offer through the Spirit of love? What have you been inspired to offer through the Spirit of love?
I meant to say amen and blessed be before. Just, sorry, I left too early. Thank you. It's so beautiful to look at your incredible faces. Thank you so much for being here. I'll end with these closing words. The quest of the human heart for meaning is the heartbeat of every religion. The quest of the human heart for meaning is the heartbeat of every religion. Go in peace.